Hello and welcome to Byte-Sized Brief. My name is Sterling.
My name is Danny.
And we have quite a few topics to go through today. First of all, why don't we start with the AWS outage? Danny, what do you know about it so far?
So, I actually did experience some issues with this when it happened with Ubisoft Connect, which I don't even use that. It's just whenever I log into a game that has it, it tries to do it. And then I saw a post about it, and apparently it's a really big outage that originated in West Virginia from a DNS error on a Amazon facility.
Yeah. So AWS is Amazon Web Services. A lot of computers and websites use their services instead of having to build their own computer system. And one of their main computers apparently had a DNS failure, which a DNS is basically where if you go to, like, say, google.com, it looks up Google and finds that website for you and then takes you there. And in this situation, it looks like it was looking for the DNS server, but the DNS server kept routing to the wrong place. Is that what I've heard so far?
Yeah, from everything I've heard, because when you actually type in something on a website, the computer doesn't actually know what you're talking about, and the DNS is what finds it. So it sounds like it was either disconnected or something was wrong where it wasn't doing anything. So a lot of when you search something, it literally just couldn't find where to go.
Okay. So a follow-up question to that is, do you think Amazon should have that much power over websites? Hypothetically, if this happens again to Amazon, does the whole entire internet go out again? And should that be able to happen?
Honestly, I didn't even know that all of these apps and websites used Amazon. I mean, there's probably servers and everything, but I thought they had their own servers. And companies do have their own servers, but such a huge reliance on Amazon, which, in my opinion, I think people or companies should have their own servers in case something like this happens again, because there is so many different websites that went down with this.
Yeah. Even for me, I'd use Canvas for my school, and Canvas went down. I couldn't submit any papers, and
Yeah,
they were
I heard
due in
about
12 hours. So I couldn't even do my schoolwork because Amazon went out.
Yeah, for me, really, I wasn't really affected. The only thing that I noticed was Ubisoft Connect, and I had heard reports, but I didn't even know how widespread this issue was.
I mean, even there's a couple reports of customers, smart beds where they have cooling and heating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, a company called 8 Sleep, their smart bed system, used Amazon Web Services to cool your bed. So in other words, their bed got stuck in a heating cycle and literally went up to 100 degrees.
Well, I guess the people who had those beds were not sleeping on their bed that night.
They were not. And overall, I don't think Amazon should have that much power over everyone. Yeah, like you said, they should have their own servers, their own hosting, but it's just so much more convenient for them to have Amazon do it for them.
Mm-hmm. But in that case, it would have been better if they had their own servers, because even banking apps went down, which is some people need to use those. Of course, you don't have to use a banking app, but still.
Mm. And just like that, thinking about Apple and how they are possibly withdrawing its app tracking transparency feature in the EU by EU pressure. EU is coming out and saying, hey, we don't like it where you can prevent people from being tracked because it doesn't allow us to keep eyes on people. So what's your take on this situation?
So I'm against it, but first up, from what I've heard, that's one of the reasons. But they've also been saying it's like a monopoly, like it's not competitive because they don't offer the same controls for their apps. But the main thing is that there is actually a lot of privacy controls in the settings app. Because for Apple, at least, all of their first-party apps, they don't really have settings for the app in the actual app. You have to go to the settings app, which is a little weird. And they do have a lot of controls there and everything. And they're not a Chinese company like TikTok and ByteDance and all that. And first of all, the EU shouldn't be spying on people, and the fact that they're mad that Apple has this feature. And in the long run, it's going to hurt customers, like if their main focus is other companies. In the long run, it's hurting customers. We should be more focused on the customers over the companies.
Absolutely. But what do you think Apple should do in this situation? So the EU is basically saying you can't sell iPhones, possibly, this is still rumored, you can't sell iPhones in the EU if we don't allow us to track them. What do you think Apple as a company should be doing in this situation? Because in this situation, Samsung was also offered this deal. Samsung refused, and EU has not done anything about it yet. So what do you think Apple should be doing here?
So I think they should fight as hard as they can to bypass this or whatever. But in the case that they don't, I would say refuse the offer. I don't know what happened, if it would get banned or anything, but it's not Apple's fault necessarily, it's the EU's fault. And I don't know, it seems like the EU has been after Apple for the past few years with USB-C. Now, I'm glad they switched to USB-C. I like USB-C a lot better than Lightning. But there's also been other stuff there's been other stuff. So, and I think they've been after other tech companies too. It's just it hasn't made the news much. Which, they're, in my opinion, they're almost like taking away some freedom of what you could implement. And honestly, I don't know exactly what I would do if I was in charge of Apple in this situation. Because, you almost want to be like, well, we're not going to sell our products there, but then you think about the customers who have the products.
Yeah. As they're selling all their products, they can't just stop selling 20% of all their phones. If they let's say they sell 100 million iPhones. They can't just sell 80 million instead because the EU won't let you to buy them there. It'll hurt the Apple themselves, and all the EU customers, they're not going to want to switch to anything else besides iPhone. They're going to figure out how to get iPhones in the EU anyway.
And a lot of people might go blame it on Apple because they didn't do any research or anything about what the real cause was.
Yeah. But also, the EU's also forcing something else here. They're also making Apple enforce an app migration toolkit. Now, for app migration toolkit, it's basically saying the EU saying to Apple, you have to let people switch over to Android. I have a lot of opinions about that, but I want to take your take first.
So, from what I've heard, it's not only Apple, it also the app developers have to do this too.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think this is a good thing because it would make it easier if you are switching. In the case that you were switching, it should also be vice versa, which I don't know if it is or not, but in the long run, I think it's good. I don't know much about it, but yeah.
To be honest, I actually have a different take. I don't think the EU should force Apple to do that. Is it a good thing that Apple do that? Absolutely. I think it's great that you'd be able to switch to and from, but I don't think they should be forced to. Because
I don't think they should force either, but in general, like you're saying, it's a good idea.
I say overall, it's a good idea, but forcing them to allow this or else, I don't think is the correct approach. The same thing with USB-C. It was great that they implemented USB-C, but I don't think they should have forced them to. Because now, let's say there's a new standard that comes out that's called, let's make up a name here, window blinds. Window blinds is better than USB-C, but they're forced to use USB-C and they can't switch the new part.
Yeah, kind of same thing you were saying. It's a good idea, but it's, again, like I was saying earlier, taking away their freedom in some aspects, that they have to do this, or they can't do this or something. Because, I mean, it's kind of like safety regulations, but the thing with safety regulations is that's for people's safety. This is not going to impact safety or anything. And in places like the ATT, that will impact people's safety in a negative way.
It definitely will. But what do you think about the Galaxy XR? Changing topics here. The Galaxy XR is Samsung's direct competitor to the Apple Vision Pro, and I have some not so great takes on it. But what do you think about it, comparing it to the Apple VR directly?
So when Samsung had their Project Muhan, I think it was called, for this originally, and so first of all, I want to talk about comparing like specs and everything. So they both have their pros and cons to each other. The Vision Pro has, or at least the new one, the newer Vision Pro has the M5 chip, 120 hertz compared to 90 on the Galaxy XR. Slightly better battery life and video playback, but it's generally the same. It's not really much better.
Yeah.
Spatial video recording, which I don't know if I did some research and it was kind of conflicting.
Yep.
And
it does. The Galaxy XR does have spatial video. It's more like just 3D video, so it's about the same.
And then it has the eyesight display, which some might not consider a pro. Like, that's not. And then Vision OS with an Apple ecosystem, which again is personal preference if it's a pro or not. But then you have the Galaxy XR, which has 27 million pixels compared to 24 on the Vision Pro. It has Google Gemini. From what I've heard, it has PC VR Link.
It does. The Steam VR Link built in.
Some native VR games, but from what I've heard, no AAA VR games. Of course, it's half the price, and personal preference, it has Android XR.
Okay. I think that it's a good option, but comparing it directly to the Apple Vision Pro, it's not as good in some aspects. Like you said, the displays are technically higher resolution, but they're a slower refresh rate. So in other words, things might look more jittery even if they're clearer. And then the Apple Vision Pro, I'm sorry?
Which, what I was saying about that, and since it has mixed reality or XR, smoother will be better to mimic real life things.
Yes. And then also the processing power is better on the M5 version. The M2 version is about the same, a little bit more on the M2 version. But the Apple Vision Pro overall, the OS itself uses a lot more computational power to work. Like the Apple Vision Pro has all the glassy effects around the corners. Android XR is a little bit more flat, so it has a lot less processing power in the background. And let's see, what else is there? The screen resolution, still better than the Galaxy VR, but the refresh rate's better on the Apple Vision Pro. They're the same kind of display technology, so they're both micro OLED, which are really good screens. Both of them have the same amount of RAM, and there's only one storage option on the Galaxy XR, where in the Apple Vision Pro, there's the 512, the 1 terabyte. But if you're actually buying, looking between these things, there's not much of it. There's not reason you would buy the Apple Vision Pro. Let's say if you have a Samsung phone, you're going to buy the Galaxy VR. If you have an iPhone, why'd you buy the Galaxy VR when you just buy the Apple Vision Pro? So you're not really shopping for both of them at the same time. It's just which one fits into your life better. And else, you can go.
And so my main opinion on it is, if you want to get in, or you want to get into this space, the mixed reality VR XR type of stuff, the Galaxy XR is half the price, but it's still expensive because with tax, you're probably paying $2,000.
Yes.
In my opinion, if you actually want to get into this space, just get something like a Quest 3, because it's slightly worse in some areas. It doesn't have I don't think the display is as good quality, but
Yeah, it's LCD instead of OLED.
it can do most of the things that the Vision Pro and XR can do, and it's only, I think, like $500, which is
Yes.
a much better price. And because the thing is if I'm spending $2,000 or $4,000 on an investment, I need to be using that often. And that's another thing, like what use cases in a daily scenario would you actually be using that for? Because like last year I got a MetaQuest 3S, and I'm actually going to sell it because I literally haven't used it in like months, because there's just not like a really use case right now. Now, I know the future is glasses, and I think if it's in a glasses form, that could be a lot more useful. And I know there's going to be this development stage that we are in right now. It's just at this point right now, there's not really a good use case for it.
No. But do you think there's actually a good use case for the ChatGPT Atlas browser? Have you used it at all yet?
So, actually preparing for the podcast, I did download it and used it when I was doing research for this podcast. And I actually watched part of the event, which was very low quality, I must say. Anyways, the CEO was like, we want this browser not to just feel like a normal browser that has a AI button slapped on it. But I have to be honest, that's exactly what it feels like when I used it. I will admit it is cool, and it is actually useful having the slide over that you can talk to ChatGPT and other things, but it honestly looks exactly like Google Chrome. Like I was expecting, and I kind of want like a new fresh UI that kind of signifies this new innovative browser, but it's not. It doesn't really feel new. Like it looks like Chrome with an AI button. Now, going beyond that, it is useful because ChatGPT will gather from multiple websites, so it's kind of like the Google AI mode.
Yep.
But I don't feel like it's what they made it sound like.
Yeah, I've seen people use it. I've not personally used it yet, but from what I've seen people use it, it just seems, like you said, it just seems like Chrome with an AI button on the corner. And there's actually versions of Chrome that are coming with a little Gemini button in the corner. So it's not able to control your screen yet. It's able to look at your screen and give you some information on it. But do you think ChatGPT Atlas browser is going to go anywhere, or do you think it's just going to disappear in a couple days?
So I think probably in about a year, no one's using it unless they really double down on the idea and add more innovative features like agent mode, which is supposed to be where it can go to different websites, but apparently that's not even available right now, and you have to have a subscription for that. It's not the free version, which is annoying. But there really needs to be something to it that makes it feel more innovative, in my opinion. Because even in the ChatGPT app, you can tell it to search the web for something. So it's kind of like, what's the point of this browser? And like you were saying with Google, how there's Gemini, and I'm sure there's probably extensions you can get that have some sort of AI built-in thing or something like that.
Okay. Would you personally use the browser? I mean, you've been using it for a little bit to like test it out, but would you personally use it as like your daily browser?
Honestly, probably not. I don't know if this is just because it's a setting I need to change, but one thing in Safari is there's autofill. Well, there's autofill in ChatGPT Atlas, but let's say I'm going to a website where I need to put in the login information. On Safari, it automatically has a pop-up, and I just scan my fingerprint, and that's it. In ChatGPT Atlas, there's nothing like that. So I go in there, I have to right-click, I have to click on autofill, passwords, I have to search for the email, I have to search for the password. So, I mean, it's technically there, but it's a lot more tedious to do than on something like Safari. Now, I don't know how it is on Chrome, but
Yep. For Chrome, I basically do the same thing. If I had a fingerprint sensor on my laptop, I would scan my fingerprint. But because I don't, I just put in my PIN code and it autofills everything for me.
yeah, I could use a passcode too.
Okay. So I overall don't think Atlas browser is going to go too far, in my opinion. It might be used by a couple people, but I don't think everyone's going to be switching to it anytime soon.
Yeah. And then one thing that recently happened is a student getting arrested because a AI system which was designed to catch shooters and things, because there's been a lot of public shootings, thought that a student eating a bag of Doritos had a gun in his hand. So what did you think of this?
I mean, this is the problem with a lot of AI systems. They don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they're programmed to understand things, but they can't grasp what they're understanding entirely. Like, if it's programmed on guns and guns only, it's not going to know what anything else is. So there's a high percentage it's going to think something's a gun, even if it's not a gun. So let's say if I have like a selfie stick. If it doesn't know what a selfie stick is, there's a good chance going to guess it's long and there's something in the end of it. It could be a gun. And a bag of chips, that is something very fundamental and easy to figure out what it is. For it to not be able to understand that, I feel like this is going to happen a lot more. And do we really need this system?
So I didn't even know they had systems like this, but it is kind of funny though that it thought a bag of chips was a gun, and it's like, did they even train the AI model before they used it or anything, or test it? And another thing is, apparently they even put handcuffs on him. First of all, did any human look at the video footage to see if he had a gun? Second of all, like, did the police do that? Was there any evidence, or did they just get a call, or did it give a notification or something and then they just came there and handcuffed this? But another thing is that if they handcuffed the kid, then they had to identify him by somehow. But does that mean they watched the video? So it's kind of confusing, honestly. And I could see the system being useful in some ways, but it could be very inaccurate or whatever, because, I think there should just be human security guards watching.
Absolutely. I'm thinking what happened with the AI system is that it identified a gun, and I think it has the possibility to identify faces, maybe. Possibly. This is speculation. And then it identified the person as, let's say, Frederick Brown, or I forgot the guy's name. And if it identified it as that, the teacher could have came in and it's like, that's the guy. But yet again, someone should have reviewed the field footage. If it's, instead of calling 911 immediately, it should be like, hey, look at this, see what to do with this. This is a possibility of danger. That would work so much better than just like, hey, police come now, no context, just come.
Yeah, it's like, is there even security people there that were watching when this happened? It's so crazy, honestly.
Yeah. If this was, let's say you go to school, let's say you go to public school and they implemented this system at your school, would you like that? Would you personally like that?
Not really, especially after knowing what happened with this case in particular. Because it also could go wrong in the opposite way. If there was an actual shooter, it may not identify the gun or whatever, so.
I mean, seeing how it mistaken something else for a gun, how often would it mistake a gun for something else? I mean, if this system doesn't work on a daily basis to identify the correct thing, how do we expect it when it actually is that thing to label it correctly?
Yeah, that's the main thing about it. And it still is, it's so confusing how, because even if someone told the police who it is, wouldn't you think the teacher would have like questioned the student first or checked him first? I mean, I guess maybe if you didn't want to get close to him, if he actually had a gun, but like what when it saw him, did he like throw the back of Doritos away like right after or something? And like, does the school know when the system goes off? Does it notify people at the school? Is there even security guards at the school? It's so weird, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, there should have been some human interaction anywhere in that process. Maybe someone to sound the alarm themselves. Maybe not that. Maybe just someone looking over the footage before they call the police. Maybe that. Or maybe the police coming in and looking at the footage before they arrest him.
Yeah, like they could just like keep him contained without actually arresting him. Look at the footage and then be like, "Oh wait, that is not. Never mind." So
I mean, imagine being the student. All of a sudden, you're just eating your bag of chips. And all of a sudden, there's 2 police officers behind you, hands behind your back. You did nothing wrong.
I would be like, what is happening? Is this a prank or something?"
Yep. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.